If you do CRO, whether you're an agency or a consultant, you might think that SaaS companies are kind of a perfect fit for conversion optimization services. And honestly, you're not wrong. They have the data that you need for one thing, right? This kind of entirely online digital product means you can track the visitor all the way through to sign up and upgrade and beyond in most cases, which gives you the data that you need to power experiments and analysis that you want to do. Not only that, but founders of startups, SaaS startups, tend to have a good mind for data. They understand this stuff. They want to use metrics. They understand what experimentation is. That's a huge win for you, right? That's less explaining and convincing you have to do. They already see what you do is valuable. So great, right? And at the same time, there are challenges. And so in this video, I'm going to outline basically how I see the challenges of selling CRO services to SaaS businesses and talk a little bit about where I think the sweet spot is, what you can do to get into that sweet spot. And yeah, let's go. So I'm going to break this down by the funding stage of the startup, because I think that's going to be the strongest predictor of your success with them. I welcome any objections to this particular way of approaching it, but this is what works for me. So we can start at the very beginning with pre-seed and seed and bootstrapped startups. This is a challenging area because, well, for one, it's likely they're not going to have a ton of traffic yet. There are exceptions here, of course. But if they're fairly new and they're just getting off the ground, they won't have a whole lot of website visitors. And so that puts you in a position where what are you going to run, like one experiment every 2 months for them? Is that really the best use of their time, your talents? It's tricky. The other challenge here is also budget, right? They're bootstrapped or just have seed funding. They're running super lean. So what can you really get away with charging them? What can you deliver in exchange for that? This is a challenge for you now to, I don't know, lower your prices just because you want this opportunity. That's pretty common. Not always the best move. Honestly, what I've seen in companies in this phase, what they need more than they need conversion optimization is customer development. They need somebody to get out and talk to humans about the actual problem that the product purports to solve and understand their market better in that way. And then just take that and just splat it onto the website, translate it into copy and offers. If you can do that, you can be really valuable to companies at this stage, but you're no longer selling conversion optimization services at this point. So that's the challenge with early stage, pre-seed, seed, bootstrapped startups in that space. Now, let's move all the way to the other end of the spectrum and talk about fully funded, established, successful, growing enterprise SaaS companies. Obviously, they have the budget, although not necessarily for you, but they do have money that they can come across to pay contractors to do stuff, to pay an agency to handle marketing functions. They've also probably got the traffic at this point. So you're good to go in terms of if you want to do experimentation, any kind of qualitative data analysis, all that stuff is fair game. The challenge here becomes, who are you going to work for? Who are you going to work with? These companies tend to be, well, big. The marketing function is mature and it's typically broken off into silos. And sometimes those silos are just impenetrable. So like, who do you get with? Are you going to go with demand gen? That they could use your help probably. Or are you going to go with, say, paid acquisition? Well, they could probably also use your help. But to tie everything together the way that I know you want to, and run experiments that impact the whole company, the whole marketing function, that's going to be a challenge. Another challenge is the dreaded initiative. So you might have gotten hired as part of an initiative. This is the real talk. If you are working with an enterprise company, it's possible that what set your actual contract in motion happened months ago when somebody said, hey, shouldn't we be doing CRO or should we be doing experiments? Somebody said this. Everybody paid attention, and this set in motion a process where it became a priority, it became an initiative, the budget was broken off, you were found, you were hired, and here you go, now you're working. So the thing here is you live by the initiative, you die by the initiative. What can happen completely unbeknownst to you, because it's happening far off in the unknown reaches of this organization, is there's a new initiative brewing. As you're ramping up your experimentation program and putting together those beautiful slide decks to talk about all the wins you're getting, someone somewhere has said, hey, shouldn't we be doing personalization? Or, hey, should we be doing AI-driven whatever is hot this month? And that set in motion a process where that idea becomes a discussion point, becomes an initiative, and this initiative eventually can just come along and replace you. This is super, super common and heartbreaking. And it sucks. You might hate it. You might say that doesn't make any sense. But what can I say? Cry more. This happens all the time. So somebody comes along and says, hey, we really love the CRO work you've been doing. It's great. It's been really impactful, but we've decided it's time for a site redesign, so we're going to hit pause on CRO. Happens all the time. Or we've decided that we're going to spend more time on personalization and account-based marketing in this quarter. And you're gone. Happens all the time. So there's money to be made and results to be achieved with large enterprise SaaS companies, sure. But your position is typically precarious and siloed off. And I think it's worth noting that some of the agencies that do serve these larger companies, like Spiro, the CXL agency, they no longer describe what they do as CRO. It's customer experience optimization, if I'm not mistaken. And I just did an interview with Arun from Funnel Envy. They also work with these larger demand gen teams. And they think of what they do as like revenue funnel optimization. In other words, it's more about attribution all the way through the funnel. It's less about A/B tests. So if you're in this territory, you're a little precarious. So therefore, like what makes sense, right? In my opinion, the sweet spot here is a company that's just passed its Series A round of funding. This is pretty specific place to be. At this phase of their growth, they're just beginning to build out their marketing team, marketing function, but not fully, not all the way. And so you'll typically have a director of marketing who has strength in one area that's probably not CRO. This person might be really adept at content marketing or have a bunch of experience in social or marketing automation. So this person comes in and they're in charge of the website and acquisition, and they get a budget to bring in agencies to handle these other functions. You could be one of those agencies or consultants that comes in to do website experimentation, qualitative, growth-driven recommendations. That could be you. This is probably the time to do it. And if you do it right, then you help the company grow from that Series A and find and lock in their product market fit and begin to scale. And you can stay with them for quite a while until you, I guess, eventually get reified into one of those silos. I think that's inevitable if the company grows enough. But that is the sweet spot. And when I look back at the companies that I've worked with, the SaaS organizations where I've done CRO, whether as an employee of an agency or an agency partner or just an individual consultant, they're almost all within about 1 year of their Series A funding round. I didn't realize this until I went and looked back, but that's pretty much the case. So if this is your sweet spot, then like what can you do about this? I think it's kind of tricky. In my mind, here's a couple of things you might consider, and this depends on your access and your network and your comfort level. You might want to make friends with founders, kind of pre-Series A founders. If you can have a wide network of founders, seed and bootstrap founders who are working towards a Series A and who know who you are and they know what you do and they trust you, then that will reap benefits over time. When the moment comes and they get that funding, hopefully you come to mind. So I guess in a similar fashion, if you have access to venture capitalists, same idea. If you can kind of plant yourself in their head as like, hey, I'm the Series A person. We're the Series A team. When that funding comes through, we're the ones that can help a SaaS company grow. And here's how we do it. That's a great sort of hook to have on the mind of people who are right there when this deal goes down. I guess beyond that, you could troll Crunchbase and just sort of like blast out and try to contact people at these companies as the funding comes in. That's an option too, I suppose. But all in all, I think the lesson here for me is that it's very much about timing. You need to catch a company at the right time, and you need to hope that they haven't already picked somebody to do this. So that's the way to win. Early stage, there's some options there, but you're going to have to lower your prices and you're going to have to feel good about taking that money, I guess. Some early stage startups, they'll do like landing page optimization. And for me, dumping all that seed money into Google Ads just doesn't feel great. I guess if they're already spending on the ads, they definitely need your help to optimize as they go. But it's not the first place I would prefer to take my rent money from, I suppose. Enterprise, you can talk to them and you can get in there and just be aware that you're a tiny little cog in a tiny little component of a giant machine, and you don't know your future there. So I would say Series A is the place to be. If you have any thoughts on whether this makes sense or how to actually get in there with Series A funded SaaS startups as a conversion optimization agency or consultant, obviously I think about this all day. So send me a message and let me know, leave a comment, whatever. And if you're into this topic, I actually made a whole course on this topic, on selling conversion optimization services as an agency or a consultant, on the sales process, on how to package it, on operations and delivering, like what resources do you need to deliver this at scale. And I'll drop a link to that course in the comments as well if you want to take a look. Thanks.